Yeah.
Lucy. You too? All right. Hi, Miss Kelly. We are doing the interview, the 10-question interview about the dish you told us to make this weekend. This is my father. He currently makes the dish in our family. He has been for a while. All right, we'll just hop into it. So his name is Jeff, by the way. But I'm gonna just, yeah, I'm gonna call him. No, we'll figure it out. All right, so Jeffy, what is the name of the dish?
So the name of the dish is apple crisp.
Apple crisp. Interesting. What is the history of this dish?
Well, the history of this dish is that this is sort of a not like a special occasion dessert, but really just a dessert you could have all year round. It was always made by my mom, and yeah, it's something. It's sort of like the go-to dessert when you were going to make a dessert, which you didn't always make dessert, but when you were going to make one, this was like the go-to, easy, have it at least once a month dessert.
So was it used for? What are you doing? Was it used for? You said it wasn't used for special occasions?
It might be, but it wasn't. It wasn't like if it was like Thanksgiving, you'd have apple pie.
Yeah,
That was a little
not
more
the
like
apple
but
crisp.
apple crisp is like just it's pretty easy to make. It doesn't take that much. You have to make a pie crust or anything. So it's sort of like your no nonsense. Like if you're gonna have a Sunday dessert with a meal, apple crisp
Apple
was
crisp.
often what it was.
You ever put like ice cream on top of it?
Ice cream was almost always available.
Okay.
Vanilla only though.
But yeah, no, I
Like
couldn't
it wouldn't
imagine
be
apple
like a
crisp with like
cookies and cream.
strawberries.
No, my dad might have liked to try that, but no.
What do you remember the first time of you making this dish?
Probably not the. I don't remember the first time I made the entire dish, but uh, I can certainly remember always participating in some part of the dish,
Okay.
and that was usually it started off by peeling apples, right? Like this was. It definitely was a dish that when you make it, everyone who's around helps to make it.
It's a very family thing.
Totally a family. And that's I think why it remains a special dish because it wasn't something that only one person could do. Anyone can peel and chop apples.
So that leads me to the next question. Does it hold sentimental value to you of you like making it when you were really young, and is it special to you making
Yeah,
it?
I mean and what's funny is it's very good to eat and that's special, but probably what I remember more is actually the making of the dish and sitting around with mostly with my mom and my older sister is a year older. And, because if we were around the house, you got drafted to help make the dish. So
Yeah,
that's what I mostly remember. It's not so much the eating the dish, but making the dish.
for sure. You said your mom originally made it in your family?
Yep.
Alrighty.
So she was the one who originally made it.
Yeah.
But my mom grew up in South Carolina. And so she got this recipe from her mother and also from her Aunt Sarah. She was very close to her aunt who lived very close by. And so when she talked about the dish, she talked about it coming from her mother and also from Aunt Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Was it a homemade dish? Like, did they think of the recipe?
Oh,
Do you
I don't know
know?
where the recipe originally came from. I mean, I
Okay.
think I can only trace it back as far as Aunt Sarah and my grandmother, but I'm sure. I don't know where they got it. Whether they got it out of a cookbook or whether they got it from a neighbor or if it goes back further in the family.
Yeah. What are the like exact ingredients in it? If someone were to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I have the recipe card right over there. I don't know it by heart, but it's basically you take apples,
Yep.
you mix in a little vanilla, lemon juice, and sugar, and you make a sort of in a little water, like a sugar or apple juice, a little sugary apple mix,
Yep.
and that's sort of what goes in the bottom. And then the crust on top of the crisp part is basically flour and sugar and butter.
Okay.
And this is a little variation. I sometimes throw in some oats on top of that. A lot of apple crisp has oats in it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's basically it's pretty simple. And then you just layer the crust on top, and you're good to go.
I think we've only ever had it with oats. I don't think we've had it.
Yeah, I know. I almost always put a little oats in it,
Okay.
but they're not in the original recipe.
Okay. That's what are the ingredients. Is it like an easy recipe to make? Can you like make it if someone were just like, there's some desserts that you get confused about, like, oh, you can't heat it past 220 degrees.
Piece of cake. The hardest thing is, well, be careful not to cut yourself, because you got to cut a lot of apples and peel a lot of apples. But the other is like you got to cut the butter into the flour, and so that takes a little bit of time, because it's not melted butter. You don't like just mix it up like that. You got to cut it either with 2 knives or with a pastry.
We did that.
I usually do it with 2 knives.
We made that when we made pastry dough.
Right.
And apple pie.
You got to cut the butter. So that's the only like technique. But even that, you really can't mess it up. It's pretty simple.
Pretty simple dish.
Sort of mash it up and
put it all together and throw it in the oven.
And it turns out pretty good.
How long is the cook time on the dish? Like, how long is it in the oven for?
I think it's in for about 30 to 45 minutes.
What do you heat? What do you heat it at?
I don't. There's something on the recipe card. Probably 400.
Probably 400.
I mean, all this stuff. I cook sort of a little bit like, I'm sure it can cook for, as long as it's not burning on top.
Yeah.
Cook for 30, 40 minutes. I think the key is you just want to get the top crispy. So if it's not, you can turn on the broiler and just broil the top for 5 minutes. And so I don't know that the temperature really matters all that much. Probably 400 for 45 minutes.
Yeah. Are there any other variations of the dish other than the oats that you can think of?
I like apple crisp, strictly apple crisp. But you could put berries in there. You could put other fruits in there and make it a fruit cobbler. Yeah. But I'm a little traditional in that way. I like just the apples.
Did you ever use like red apples instead of green apples? Because we usually use green apples. They're kind of the same thing, but
you're giving me. Allowed to use red apples, Andrew. Only green apples.
Like very upset.
Granny Smith apples.
Granny Smith, that's it.
Tart apples. You need tart apples to offset. So this is something I do believe very strongly. You need tart apples to offset the sweetness from all the sugar.
Yeah.
So if you use sweet apples with all the sweet, it's too sweet. You actually need tart apples.
So
it'll still be really sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is one thing. There are 2 things, and this goes back to the technique question. There are 2 things that my mother definitely imparted in me. One is Granny Smith apples. For an apple pie, for whatever, you need Granny Smith apples. A little more tart. And 2, thin sliced apples.
Thin sliced.
And like some people will be like, no, thin sliced.
Like be able to see through it.
Not quite that.
Not that.
Yeah, pretty thin slice. Like as thin as you can slice them. That's definitely a technique.
I would get really annoyed at that. Yeah, I have that question on here. Did you have to learn any special cuts or techniques?
No, I mean that's
just to make it really thin.
Well, I will tell you that it came from my mother as a very important part of making this. And she would, that's what you learn when you learn to slice apples, was make them thin either for apple pies or for apple crisp. I mean, you could just chop the apples and put them in. It's not like it really, but from a family recipe technique, thin sliced apples.
What are you doing? Our dog is crazy. They just roll around and ask for tummy rubs. Okay, do any other, so you said you made it with your family when you were really young?
Yep.
Who in your family? You have
well, all my siblings.
All your siblings.
I don't know about my cousins on my mom's side, but definitely John makes the same recipe. My younger brother, my younger sister Mary makes the same recipe, and my older sister Lynn. We all make the same.
They all make it?
Exactly.
Do they add oats?
I don't know. We'd have to ask.
We should ask them.
Yeah.
That's all the questions on here. I appreciate you doing this. Sure. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, that was really fun. Thanks.
Alrighty.
Thanks for talking about it.
All right, Miss Kelly, I'll see you tomorrow. Today is Sunday, so. All right, goodbye, Miss Kelly.